All right. Hello and welcome. I'm waiting for a viewer. We're at 6 seconds here. All right. Hello and welcome to week 7 of the Dynasty Football Digest and IDP Guys Start or Sit Show. I'm Dan Freeman. I'm an editor for Dynasty Football Digest. You can find me on the Twitters at @TheDannyFresh. And joining me today, Hollywood. Tell them who you are, what you do, where we can find you.
Yes, at Hollywood Titan on Twitter. You can find me over at the IDP Guys. Just updated my top 700 rankings. Do all my writing there. IDP Devi. Like I said, I'm all over social media, so I'm everywhere. I'm easy to find.
Let's repeat that again. Your top 700, is that correct?
Top 700, offense and defense combined.
My man rolls deep. So as we wait for a couple questions to populate in here, something I was thinking about this week is just a big picture question here is, really feels like this year more than I can remember in a while, we are lacking the really dominant teams. I think even the Chiefs and Ravens that I would still consider the top of the pile have shown their warts. The NFC teams, no one's really like delineated themselves as the team. What are you seeing? You seeing any? Would you call any teams truly even very good or separating from the pack?
Yeah, I think everybody kind of jumped straight to Kansas City, Baltimore naturally. I mean, they got good teams. You kind of touched it here just a second ago. This Pittsburgh and Tennessee game is going to tell us a lot, win or lose for either team. I mean, that's
agreed.
It almost seems like the AFC is more heavy as far as top end teams. I think the NFC, there's so many question marks around everybody. Nobody's really running away with it. I mean, San Francisco's got injuries, and Seattle, their defense is kind of questionable at times, and Dallas.
That's very questionable, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, even Tampa Bay has got their issues. So
yeah. Well, you hit two teams. Two games, I should say, that I'm really interested in. One is, I agree, your Titans and the Steelers is a big game this week. I think it's going to tell us a lot about those two teams. What the Steelers do really well matches up against the Titans, but you were talking off air. There's a real key injury there to that defense in Pittsburgh. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, they're good. Most people may know, but if you don't, they are without their stud linebacker, Devin Bush. He's gone for the season, and I think they're going to miss him. They're trying to fill him with Robert Spillane, who actually used to play for Tennessee. He's nothing special, so they're going to miss him big time, which we have an injury with Taylor Lewan, our offensive tackle. He's out for the season too, so how both teams deal with those two injuries, I think, is going to be key to this game. Yeah,
I think that's a really interesting one. And also Tampa Bay, real interested to see what it looks like against those Raiders. I mean, I'd expect them to win, but they really seem to be turning a corner. And sort of moral implications of Antonio Brown aside, that team is loading up right now, and that defense is playing great. Be interesting to see if they can really put a thump on the Raiders.
Yeah, what are you thinking about the signing of AB now? Helps them, hurts them?
I mean, I think it's going to help them. One thing I think is that clearly, I'm sort of taking the approach, I'm just judging the football here. Well, the narratives aside, clearly Brady's got a positive relationship with him. Right. And I think Brown's a guy who's got to have a top dog above him in a locker room if he's going to kind of keep that, straight laced. And it really doesn't get much more top dog than Tom Brady, right? So, and it's a lineup where he can't just come in and assume he's so much better than the rest of that room when you've got Evans and Godwin and Gronk and all that. So their weapons are loaded. Ronald Jones is playing fantastic football. Right. And that defense is going to keep everybody honest. I mean, those guys just go after it, right? So, I was saying to somebody earlier this week, the Belichick and Brady split, the both of them may come out looking better, which is just infuriating to me. But I think they're both coming off looking better, Right. Yeah, I think that's a team that could really maybe separate itself a little bit in the NFC, but we'll see.
Yeah, I went with you. I kind of like Tampa Bay. I like them more because of their defense
Mm-hmm.
with Sue and Jason Pierre-Paul and Devin, those linebackers behind him, Devin White. And they got Antoine Winfield playing.
Anton Winfield is
Yeah,
fantastic,
he's
man.
playing exceptional back there. So
Yeah.
it hurt that they lost Vita Vea. I wish they
Mm-hmm.
could keep him in there because with him, that front four is just it'll eat you
No,
up.
it's
So
filthy. Yeah, I Anton Winfield. I mean, I feel like we tend to not talk about the defensive guys as much when we talk about like rookies of the year and stuff like that. But you'd be hard pressed to find a more impressive rookie season than that guy's having. I think he's been fantastic.
I do too. I was high on him coming out of the draft. I thought he was the number 2 safety coming out of the draft, just behind McKinney, and he's making me look good so far on that. So,
Yeah.
Looking at our over here at our chat while we're on teams, the Bears. What's your feeling on them?
Yeah, I was just seeing that. That just what made me giggle. No mention of the Bears. I feel both ways about the Bears, and maybe that's why they don't get the mention. Like,
Right.
I think it's totally fair to say no mention of the Bears. Like, totally fair, right? Their record is what it is. As Parcell, I grew up a Parcells kid. Like, your record is what it is, right? Like, the wins tell you what you do. So they are winning. And the defense is not as dominant as it was 2 years ago, but obviously much better than it was last year.
Right.
It's hard for me to put them up there with the inconsistency at QB because I just don't know what I'm going to get.
Right.
And I like Foles, but I mean, Foles can be a world beater one quarter and the next quarter look like he forgot how to play, and it's got to be so stressful there,
Yeah, I'm with you on Foles. I'm just not confident and sure what you're going to get. And I'm kind of surprised, not that they're 5-1, but how they're 5-1, because like you said, their defense hasn't played completely lights out. I mean, Mac's been banged up and injured. Robert Quinn really hasn't done what they thought, but it's almost like separately they're not doing what they need to, but you put them together and they are doing what they need to, So
yeah,
and they're starting a rookie back there at corner, so that's even with that, that's kind of impressive too.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some of these questions that are coming in. Kaiser or White? I'm not sure which Kaiser he's referring to, but I'm going to guess that's an IDP question.
Probably Micah Kaiser, and I'm guessing Devin White. Ooh. That's close. I think I go Devin White. I think he's the better player, so I think I go Devin White there.
All right, there you go. Let's see here. Morning, gents. Need a QB. Should I start Burrow, Cam, or Tannehill? You have a take there?
Well, Burrow's got Cleveland, if I'm thinking correctly.
Yeah.
Tannehill's got the Pittsburgh. Who does New England have?
New England's got San Francisco. I have them ranked so darn close. They're all within like couple for me. I'm a little worried about Burrow this week. I think it's not that I have huge respect for Cleveland, but I could just see Myles Garrett just eating up that offensive line and knocking Burrow all over the place. So I think I'm staying away there.
But they're going to be throwing a lot, though. I think they're going to throw a lot, especially with Mixon out.
You can score in Cleveland. There's no doubt about that. It's true. It might be a lot of Geo stuff.
Yeah.
But
I feel the same way about Tannehill. I think he's Pittsburgh's defense is good. They're sneaky good too. I mean,
I probably go Cam because I think you get at least a rushing floor. And while San Francisco defense is good, with their significant injuries, they're not what they were last year. So I probably take the floor of Cam there.
Yeah, I think your floor. I think your floor is Cam. Burrow and Tannehill, they're kind of in the same situation. If those defenses get on them and get after them, they're going to have to throw a lot more than they're used to. At least Tannehill does have Derrick Henry, which I think is a definite upgrade over what Cincinnati has with Mixon out. I'm with you. I think you go if you're going safe, you take Cam. If you're looking at if you're looking at the upside, I think I take Burrow just barely over Tannehill.
I hear that. I hear that. Okay, right on. Let us see here. Here we go. From Mimsy wants to know full point PPR, T Higgins or CD, and in another note here, he's already starting Amari Cooper. So just from a point of stacking as a strategy or not.
Full PPR.
So that comes down to a real simple question in my mind: is what do you think that Dallas offense really is?
How much do you believe in Andy Dalton?
Andy Dalton, which I think I flagged this on last week's episode, but that incredibly banged up offensive line for Dallas as well. So it's Andy Dalton under pressure against a Washington defense that's not great, but that front can get after it, right? I mean, this is one of those ones where I'd say I'm probably playing Higgins because, as we said, Burrow's going to throw a lot. You can score on Cleveland, and that PPR is the difference maker here for me because I could see CD getting a couple bombs, but I don't see him getting fed a ton of targets. And if I'm in a tournament, a GPP on like daily or something like that, CD makes for an interesting home run pick. But I think I'd go Higgins. Burrow seems really locked in with him, and that game I feel like is going to be a much more high-scoring game.
Yeah, a lot of people make a big issue out of starting two off the same team, and I get it. I understand it. I don't – in this case, I wouldn't think it's as big of an issue because Dallas likes to throw it. Now, my question would be, how do you believe in Andy Dalton? But even though they have Gallup, they have Cooper, they have CD, I think you play on all three of them if you need to. With that, I'm with you. I think T. Higgins is the star here. Cleveland's going to be on them probably early, and they're going to have to throw it a lot. So, and Higgins is the guy. I mean, he's him and Tyler Boyd. So, I think go Higgins.
Curious to see what Green does in that game. That's a side note, but just curious.
Don't you think this is his last? Don't you think this is probably his last year in Cincy? I know he wants to stay there.
I would definitely say it's his last year. Well, I shouldn't say definitely because who knows the NFL, but I would think so. I'm more saying I'm just curious after him having his first real good game of the season, which I think was a little smoke and mirrors. I'm curious to see, is he playing himself back in shape and he has another game in a game he should succeed in, or was that a real fluke outlier? And can he be productive maybe for another team in the future?
Right.
All right. So our favorite weekly question. But this time we know that Miles Jack is out early. So no need to ask about him this week. You got it. Sorry. This isn't even a question. He's just letting us know that he's out. Thanks for the update. Miles Jack is out. So yeah, he's going to go shit in Neil. Let me see here. Sorry about that. Where are we here? All right. Here's an interesting one. James Robinson or Amari Cooper PPR? Any thoughts there? It's always cross position comparison's always a little tricky.
I think you got to go Robinson here. I mean,
I would.
Just the volume of touches puts him ahead.
Volume of touches. Plus, I think that game has some real sneaky shootout potential.
Chargers, right?
Yeah, Chargers and Jags. I think that could go real high. And, Dallas can go in a lot of different directions there. So, for me, it's just a much safer play. And Robinson has upside, too. So it's not like it's just a floor play. That's where I go. All right. Let's see where we are at. Oh. he said this user sent a following note that said, sorry for the hard questions of 14-team league. Nah, it's all right, man. Corey Davis or LaVisca. Hollywood, let me ask you, what are you hearing about the A.J. Brown injury? Is he all right? Would they just kind of be precautionary, or is he banged up?
As far as I know, it's just precautionary. I mean, I guess he's always a little banged up, seems to be, but nothing that I'm truly worried about. I guess we'll kind of see once the game gets closer because Vrabel's kind of like Belichick. He doesn't give out anything that he doesn't have to, so it's kind of hard to read into it. As for the question,
go for it.
I'm taking Chenault.
Yeah, I agree.
They like to run him and throw to him and all that. I think he's going to be a weapon.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think that was the only reason I was asking about. Maybe I didn't know something about the AJ Brown injury because I think I actually don't think it's that tough of a question because Corey
Well,
Davis. You're
even
talking
if
about.
Brown,
Yeah, go
even if
ahead.
sorry, even
No,
if
go.
Brown's hurt, I don't think Davis does enough to put him ahead of Chenault. Even if Brown was, God forbid, he missed the game, he doesn't do enough. So
Yeah, I think I agree though. At least that would make it closer to me. But
yeah,
Steelers D with the running back, with AJ Brown, with Jonnu. I mean, Corey Davis could zero. You know what I
right,
mean? And Chenault's not gonna,
right.
especially not in that game. So, um, hope that helped out. Okay, another fun one here. This is tricky. Don't jump. Deshaun Watson
Ooh,
or Justin Herbert or
ooh.
A Bear Herbert. So, here's the thing. I've now, this is the third time in a row where I've said I expect that Jags Chargers game to go nuts. I think it's a sneaky, super high scoring game. I think you can stack that game in daily. And if I think that, I have to think that Justin's going to be a really great play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a rookie QB is a rookie QB always, always. And I do think Watson's one of those guys, and I've got Watson on a couple teams of mine. He's one of those guys that when he has a bad game, it's still fantasy relevant, right?
Yeah.
He's just he don't, it all runs through him. He'll always give you some rushing yards. Green Bay is a good defense, but certainly not a great one. And they'll put up points. So Watson's going to have his foot on the pedal the whole time. I think it's sneaky close. What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, I do too. My gut's wanting me to go Justin Herbert here. I think he's just been playing phenomenal, and I'm assuming that's for this week anyway. This question,
Mm-hmm.
um, the thing with Watson, you're right. They can have a bad game, and he's still a fancy relevant option. Um, what kind of scared? I expect Green Bay to win, and probably, well, I want to think they win this pretty handedly.
Mm-hmm.
Probably by 10 or more easily.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something to be said when you're backed into a corner like Houston is. I mean, they're what, 1-4, 1-5. If they
Yeah.
don't win today, they're done pretty much.
I mean,
So I
they're
think,
done pretty much.
yeah, but I think this is the final nail for
Yeah.
sure. They could come out playing inspired, but with Watt and everything. But
Yeah.
I'm taking Herbert. I just think it's that game, especially with Jacksonville. That thing could be. We could be wrong. It could be 3-0, but then again, it could
Right.
be
No, but
34,
over under.
37.
Yeah, sure do. So I think that this is one of those ones of like, I think the right play. I think I'm going to come on the other side of you and say that the right play is Watson, because I think the floor ceiling is a much better mix. But you're gonna have a lot more fun with Justin with
Yeah.
Herbert, and I certainly think that one could explode. So I'm being a little wishy-washy, but I think gun to my head, I'd probably start Watson just because I think he just, man, I've had so many games where he's had just a bad game and he still got me 20 fantasy points.
Right. And maybe the Russian sways it his way a little bit because he'll get you some
Mm-hmm.
rushing yards. So,
Another one from Jackson here, which I think is an interesting one. It opens up a few different questions. Thoughts on how Christian Kirk is going to do this week? Do you have any thoughts on Christian Kirk, or I can riff for a little bit if you want?
yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So, so the short version, I like him. The long version. Another game that I don't know what the over is for that game, but if it's like 197, I might take the over, right? That game's going to score. Seattle is putting up a ton of points, and their defense is terrible. You can kind of say the same thing for Arizona. They're sort of Seattle light in both ways, right? Their defense isn't as bad, but it's really bad. Their offense isn't as good, but it's really good. And we know that, Nuck's going to be Nuck. And so there's no question there who's the top dog. But Kirk has had games where he's really looked like a difference maker. He's been hot, and the connection's there. And, with Hopkins getting so much attention, and with the way that Murray can make things happen with his legs, a guy like Kirk, it's a little bit like what Ayuk can do if the quarterback was better, I think, in San Francisco. But a guy like Kirk is going to be free to make a lot of things happen. So I actually like him. I've put him in a lot of my daily lineups for what that's worth. And I think PPR scoring. I think he's a strong start. I think he's a very underrated player right now.
Yeah, he's just been kind of spotty at times, which kind of scares me off a lot. But I do think he's a good play. I like him. I like this matchup for him too. I think it could be one of his better ones, actually.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, you could have asked me about anybody in that game, and I'd probably tell you I liked him in that game. There's a couple of those this week. I surprised myself with what I kicked there. Thoughts on AJ Dillon? I do not have thoughts on AJ Dillon.
There's not
Do
a
you
lot
have
to
thoughts
think
on
about.
AJ Dillon?
No, actually, there's not a lot.
Is Jones out? Have they called Jones out? I thought Jones was going to give it a go when last I saw.
I'm trying to watch the TV here. I've not seen anything yet.
There's maybe somebody in the chat. Does anybody know if Jones has been called out or not?
Not seen anything yet. If he's out, then maybe I think Jamal Williams is the guy if he's out. But then maybe Dillon sneaks a few reps away, breather reps or whatever. But
I don't know. I guess
long-term dynasty, I like Dillon. I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
If you're still in the chat and viewing for your answer, I don't know, Dad22, DAAD. Let us know what context, because it depends. I need a little bit. You're talking about in daily. You're talking about long term. You're talking about just starting this week in your season long. Let us know, because it would change my answer a little bit. Where am I? All right, here's a good one for Sean. Sean wants to know: is Kenyon Drake heating up, or was Monday night a fluke?
That's tough. I think you could play him this week because of the matchup. Seattle's defense is horrible. So if you're looking at this week, then I think he could heat up again. I don't know if Monday night was a fluke, but
I mean, he did. He broke big run, so there's always that. I would generally be. I agree. You could play him this week. Actually think I like Edmonds a little bit more this week, but you could probably play them both. I think I'm probably fading Drake. I would not buy in. I'm not sure it has much to do with Drake. I was pretty high on him coming into the season, maybe too high. And the more I look at what the way that team's going to play, Edmonds will stay involved. Murray runs so much. They have the weapons. I'm just not sure. Like, you're gonna have weeks where he pops, but I think you're gonna have way more weeks where he disappoints from where you need him to be. So I'm fading Drake.
I'm not trying to go get him or nothing. I think with him you play the matchups like this week versus Seattle. That's a good time to play him. That's kind of where I'm at with him. You just got to play the matchups.
All right. Some further clarity on the Dillon question. In PPR this week if Jones is out. So correct me if I'm wrong. Dillon's not much of a pass catcher, right? That's going to be Jamal Williams' role, isn't it?
Yeah. If Jones is out, Jamal Williams should be the lead back. Probably do it all. Dillon can catch. I mean, it's not his strong suit. Yeah, it's not his strong suit catching, but he can do it. I mean, he's kind of a poor man's Derrick Henry in a way. Same big power runner,
dude.
Yeah, so he could vulture touchdowns if that's the case. In the red zone or something like that, short yardage guy. But
I mean, we expect them to be able to score plenty on Houston, right?
Right.
So it could be a situation where they're up and they ride a power back, that kind of a thing. I guess it seems like a low ceiling to me, not knowing who else you're going against. So my sense is if you have better options, roll with it. But you could do far worse if Jones is out.
Yep.
Is that where you're at, Hollywood?
Yep. I agree.
Right on. So What do you make of the Le'Veon Bell news?
Oh, man. I kind of like it, and then I don't know. I've waffled on it, to be honest. I mean, I like it. I don't like it.
Like him in Kansas City, or what do you mean? Like it from what angle?
Well, just him going to Kansas City. I was like, okay, this is a definite upgrade because the Jets are just it's freaking crap storm up there.
Yeah.
So at least he's going to
Kansas the post-Gase bump. Anywhere you go, you get a post-Gase bump.
Yeah, and you're going to Kansas City on a high-powered offense with a coach that's putting up fantasy numbers for owners at every position, receiver, running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, everywhere. I really like it. But then I have to pump my brakes because they have CEH. They have so many weapons. So I want to see where he fits. But I wonder if they kind of bump CEH back a little bit. They don't want to wear him out. They don't want to run him straight into the ground as a rookie, maybe. So could they go with this Bell as I don't want to say a complete split, but maybe like a 70-30 split somewhere, kind of ease up on him. If that's the case, I like him. I like him anyway, just because I think he's going to be used correctly.
Yeah, it strikes me almost as it might be one of those situations, particularly in deeper leagues, where the answer may be maybe we're going to learn here, but maybe that CEH ceiling comes down a little bit. But I sort of made this as a joke, and I'd be like, well, Le'Veon's going to vulture all his touchdowns. Oh wait. Right? Like CH just hasn't had touchdowns at all. So I guess what it mostly means is maybe it eliminates the high ceiling we still haven't seen CH hit, but I'm not sure it takes much off what we've already seen, right? So if you drafted, and you may have, if you're in a redraft or something like that, and you drafted him, with your top 5 or 6 pick, which in my mind was madness, but a lot of people did, you're probably going to be a little disappointed. But if you're in a dynasty league and either you got him because you're rebuilding, or you got him because he's a complement part to a team, you're probably good there. And I'd just say find a way to get Le'Veon on your roster if you can get him on for the cheap, because the owner who had him,
year, right?
What'd you say?
He's just there
just this year. Just this year.
So yeah, 1 year rental. So he may. They may Brian Westbrook him this year and just feed him, to get a
Well, I'd say from a dynasty acquisition standpoint, Le'Veon Bell makes for a great buy if you don't have to overpay, right? Because the owner who has him is probably a little fed up anyway, right? Whether he's had for the last couple of years, he becomes a fantastic handcuff for the CEH owner. He probably has a little bit of standalone value, because there are weeks where he could vulture a couple touchdowns. He can catch the ball, so he's going to get those PPR points. He's a nice player, and maybe you've got him on your roster as he becomes a free agent. Maybe he proves himself healthy and does well, but doesn't have a lot of fantasy value this year. And next year becomes the lead back for the Patriots or whatever. You know what I mean? And now suddenly you've got yourself another starting back. He's older, but he's not old. So, let's see here. We got a couple.
And I think I hadn't thought of it till you mentioned it. I almost like it because of him being on a 1-year deal. Maybe they use him enough to where next year he lands somewhere else pretty good, and they can.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
He'll land in a situation where it'll be his. So yeah, I kind of like that. Now is it buy low time? Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a question for Sean. I saw this morning. Sean, I have to be honest, I've not had a chance to go deep on this one, but I read Minshew could be benched this week if he struggles. Any idea who would take over? Now, I could be wrong about this. I need to go into the Jacksonville Jaguars depth chart, but they kind of have no one. So I don't know who. I think is Mike Glennon there? I think. Let me go look up the Jacksonville, unless you can get to it before I am. Yeah, Mike Glennon is their backup. What? I don't. So I don't know if that's. I'm gonna read that as the coaching staff is maybe putting a bug in his ear. I just can't imagine they'd make that kind of a switch. Can you?
Yeah, I woke up this morning and that was one of the first things I saw was he could possibly be benched. And I was like, what? Why would you do that? You don't even have anything behind him.
Yeah. Unless they want to bench him to protect him for another year.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm like you. Maybe it's trying to light a fire under his ass a little bit, trying to get him going. So I can imagine they'd bench him, though.
Yeah. Cool Barnett, Brashard Perryman, or Jerry Jeudy. Is Jeudy playing? Is he good and healthy? Do we know? I'm trying to find a Jeudy note real quick.
Yeah. If he's healthy, I'm going Jeudy. If he's playing.
I'm just looking him up real quick. Yeah, so I'm having trouble finding it right now. Yeah, so I'll do a quick second on Perryman, and Mims as well. If you're looking at daily lineups, Perryman is, I think, 3,700 on DraftKings. Mims is 3,000. If you want to build a lineup and stack it out, Darnold is back, so we're not dealing with Flacco. And Crowder is out. So Perriman's going to be their number one wide receiver, and they're playing the Bills. So they are going to have to throw. But I think I'd still go Jeudy. that all said. So, yeah, agree with that. Also, Cool Barnett wanted to say.
From what I can see, Judy's playing. I don't see
Okay,
anything.
great. So, yeah, Jeudy, tighten up. Aaron Jones ruled.
I don't see anything. Yes,
Aaron Jones ruled out. So there you go on that one. So I guess we'll get to see our first dosage of Dillon, and see what we get out of that. That's interesting because that does change.
I still think Jamal Williams.
That actually makes me like Watson a little bit more, because I do think Jones is the kind of running back that going way back to our quarterback question. It's going to make it a little harder for the Packers to stretch clock if they've got the lead. Maybe they're throwing a little bit more, might give Watson just a few more minutes on the field. And when you're talking about a choice that close, a few extra minutes with the ball in your hand could make your difference there for sure. So,
right, I agree.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you, what are there any notable injuries on the defensive side? Forget about this week, but long term, any shifts you're seeing that Hollywood might be good buy low candidates or guys that are going to be undervalued because defensive injuries have shook things up?
Yeah, one of them. He's actually coming back today. Is Melvin Ingram for the Chargers? I think.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, so I think he was kind of not playing his normal level before the injury, and now that he was injured, I think a lot of people have kind of just moved on from him or forgot about him. So now might be a good time to, if everybody's not sure that he's back, now might be a good time to go in there and swoop him up and get him for the cheap. I really like that.
I'm making a note of that myself right now. When we get off there. All right, trade Bobby Wagner straight up for Swift. I assume that's not DeAndre Swift. That's isn't that pass rusher Swift, or am I making that up? Or is he talking about DeAndre? Okay, well, if we're talking about the running back, I mean, you pretty much always grab the running back in that scenario, right?
Yeah, even in a balanced, if it's
it is DeAndre Swift.
Okay, so
I was thinking Sweat. I'm sorry, I was thinking Sweat.
Yeah, Sweat. Yeah.
So yeah. So Wagner for DeAndre Swift.
If it's win now, if you're trying to win this season and you need a linebacker, ooh, man, maybe redraft. You do that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
in Dynasty, I don't think you do though. No way.
Definitely not in Dynasty, and I'd question in redraft too because, DeAndre Swift was my whisper player, which I'll get to my whisper player in a little bit again. But I think that's a guy who got so overhyped, then became so underhyped. I think he's now underrated again, and that's a guy he's not going to be your top running back out of this class or anything like that. But now he's settled into a range where he's going to be a useful guy.
Yeah.
He's going to be a guy you can use, and especially PPR formats, I would for sure do that trade.
Yeah. Dynasty, no way. Absolutely not, because Wagner,
Yeah.
he doesn't have much left. I mean, he's a couple of years at a top level at least. Other than that, I think if it's redraft, then you might consider it if you're winning now and if you're good at running back and you don't really need Swift, then yeah, you might consider Wagner. But other than that,
I think he's saying it the other way around. I think the impression I get is he'd be giving up Wagner for Swift.
Oh, if you're giving up Wagner, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So he's just a follow-up note in the chat. He's loaded at linebacker and he's getting massive interest in Wagner. I would so we're both saying a hard yes. Make that trade.
Smash it right now. Quit listening. Go do it.
Yeah. Stop listening. Go make it happen.
Don't quit listening. Just go do it.
Or do it. Go split screen. There you go. All right. JJ Watt versus Green Bay or Shaq Barrett versus LB. Is it Shaq Barrett's been a little disappointing this year, right? Am I making that up?
He has. It's funny. I've got to kind of toot my own horn here a little bit. Back in the preseason, I kind of wrote on this on Shaq Barrett. I'm like, I wrote a piece called Shaq Barrett Sacked. Because to think that he was going to repeat what he did last year was just crazy. Mm-hmm. He had a great year, set the team record, led the NFL in sacks with 19 and a half. But to think that he was going to do that for a second year in a row is just ludicrous, because I wrote another piece on Aaron Donald a few years when he had the 20 sacks. And if you go back and look, when you have 20 sacks, there's a regression.
Oh, yeah.
And I just didn't see it with him. Plus, they were getting a healthy JPP back, and you've got Sue and you've got Vay, and that he has been disappointing based on last year, but I think he's doing okay this year.
He's doing okay, but is he even on pace for like double-digit sacks?
I think so.
Oh yeah, maybe just that or something.
Yeah, it's like 10 to 12, maybe is where he's at.
Maybe. All right, so that's nothing to sneeze at. So yeah, it's just not okay. So sorry, that was my macro question in regards to this particular week. Do you have where are you at with this pick?
JJ.
Yeah, I concur.
I think he's going to be a little pissed off after they lost to the Titans, and plus I just don't like Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah, my only how I feel about Big Ben. That's I just don't like that guy. My only counterpoint might be, isn't the Raiders O-line, didn't a bunch of them have COVID tests come back, or maybe they were just on the list and then got reinstated. I would just my caveat there would be just take a look at what's going on with the Raiders O-line and make sure if they're all intact, then yeah, JJ Watt. All right, I'm gonna kick this straight to you because I do not know. Is Matt Milano, the linebacker from the Bills, playing today?
That's a good question. Let me look at that, because
while you look that up, while I vamp, I'll vamp. You give that a look. Maybe it's time. Is it time for the whisper player, Hollywood? Is it time for me to drop it?
Sure. Yeah,
so
sure.
We've talked about a game that we think is going to blow up. We think there's a lot of young guys who are going to score high, and that game is the Jacksonville Chargers game. So, you ready? Everybody leaning in, listening closely. It's Hunter Henry week. Hunter Henry set up big blow up spot. That's what I think. I think we're gonna get a big old Hunter Henry week. So grab him if you got. You're probably starting him if he's on your team anyway. But if you're loaded at tight end, get Henry in there. If you're in daily, smash it. That's my guy this week.
Nice.
Yeah. Did you find any info on Milano while I was doing that riff?
I'm trying to look.
I'll pull up another one while you're looking.
Still go right ahead.
And now that we know Jones is out, AJ Dillon or Corey Davis.
Last I see here is he. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. Oh, you're still looking to see. So sorry. AJ Dillon.
Last I'm seeing him.
You go, Hollywood. I'll shut up.
I must be on a delay. Sorry. Okay. Looks like he's took practice the last few days, but he's limited. So I think if you've got better options, you probably need to go somewhere else.
Okay. We're doubling back to the AJ Dillon questions here, and I think based on it's AJ Dillon or Corey Davis the flex with Jones out, and I think we both said we don't have Corey Davis interest this week, so that's an AJ Dillon smash for me in that scenario. Would you agree with that?
With Jones being out, Dillon definitely gets a bump up. Here, I might take Corey Davis slightly.
Oh, okay.
I might take Davis as a flex here.
Yeah, I never like taking a risk at a zero. That's my thing. And I just think Davis does have a risk at that. But right. So Sean, how about Jamal Williams though? So we both agree that Jamal Williams is the safer play there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Dillon has the TD upside, but I actually like Jamal Williams overall this week in that matchup, especially in a PPR format.
Yeah, me too. I think with Jones out, Williams, his value skyrockets this week. And teams can score on Houston, so yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and Williams is pretty good in pass pro, so he can get on the field and stay on the field.
Yeah.
That's a kind of underrated part of his game, where rookies usually struggle with that, even though Dillon is big. I actually don't. I don't. He may be good at pass pro too. I'm not. I feel less scouted on him, but I know Williams is good at it. So there you go. So any other guys this week, Hollywood, you're really interested in? Anybody you're kind of high on or just curious about? Seeing what they might do coming back. I'll throw somebody out there just to keep it going. Somebody I want to see who I'm a huge fan of, and I actually think could have a really good week. But if he does, then he's going to go right back into sort of my upper tier of guys. Is Debo. So I didn't start Debo last week because I wanted to see it. I'd said that last week. I need to see it, or it was a couple weeks ago. We've now seen it, and I think there's a good chance he can have a real solid week playing the Patriots, and just the way the Pats is probably going to set up to try to limit Kittle and the running game. I think Debo could get a lot of use. And if he does and he puts up numbers, then I think we go Dillon's all the way. Debo's all the way back, and you start looking at him, in your wide receiver 2 rankings pretty solidly, and bump him on matchups and stuff like that.
Yeah, sorry, I was answering a question here on Reddit too.
No worries. Oh, what's a Reddit question?
Well, they're asking, should they trust Robert Spillane for Devin Bush, which we kind of answered. I don't think you trust him right now. I think you pump the brakes and see what he does, because he's no Devin Bush.
Let's let you said that, because we said that way at the beginning of the stream. So for those that haven't heard, Devin Bush, young stud linebacker with the Steelers, is injured and out, and is replaced by, take it from there,
Robert Spillane. Most people have never heard of him. He was a backup for Tennessee for a while. I'm not trusting him. I mean, maybe if you're in a super deep league where you have to have a linebacker, you start him because he's going to be a starter this week, and probably maybe the rest of the season if they don't do something. But I wouldn't go in expecting huge numbers from him.
Yeah. This isn't so much a question, but let's get into it a little bit, because I think it's an interesting one. So Sean said, I want to see the Steelers wide receiver target shares with Dante coming back to join Juju and Maple John. Is that what we're calling? Now I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, rookie wide receiver. Claypool.
Yeah.
Is he Canadian? What is that? I've not heard that.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay. There we go. Well, that's a good nickname then, because I inferred it from the name.
Maple.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question. That's a really strong wide receiver core. I'll also say from a dynasty perspective, long term, it is hard for me to imagine any scenario where Juju resigns with the Steelers. So if you can get either one of those other two wide receivers, you probably can't get Claypool at any kind of discount at this point, but you might be able to get Deontay, right, coming off the injury. I would grab him, because I think Juju, and doesn't mean I'm devaluing Juju. I can see Juju being a wide receiver 1 on another team, but everything in the way they're using him, the way the Steelers historically have handled wide receivers and re-signing number one guys. You've seen it time again. They just don't. They move on to the next. They move on to the next.
Right.
And with Deontay and Claypool, they got you absolutely can win with those two. So, and they'll probably get another one. They'll probably get another one in a wide receiver loaded class. So, if you can acquire Deontay, I would.
Yeah,
that would. Not just another reason to watch the Steelers Titans game, which should be a doozy.
I hope it goes in my favor. I don't want to be there for the rest of the day.
I hope to do, like I said, Big Ben's my least favorite guy. I hope the Titans roll it, but it's going to be. I expect that to be a fun one for sure.
You think it'll be a high scoring game?
I can see so many game scripts there. I think it'll be right around the number. I don't expect it to go way off. I think. Let me put it this way: if it's a really high scoring game, it works against you. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
For it to get high scoring, those wide receivers are going to have to be flying all over the place. You know what I mean? And now, maybe with the linebacker change, maybe Henry can get it going.
Right.
I mean, he's so just. Steelers front is really nice, but he's almost matchup proof. We've seen him do it against everybody. So, but I don't see it as particularly up or down. I kind of think it'll be, your NFL kind of in the high 20s type of something, type of thing. Are you expecting anything different? What do you think?
No, I'm thinking it'll be kind of close. I'm with you. I think it'll be in the high 20s probably. Maybe somebody slips into the low 30s, but I think it'll be close. I'm just worried with Tennessee's secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the safeties, but the corners, because we're trotting out Fulton, the rookie, and we're just now getting Adoree back, hopefully. I hope he plays today. And then we've got Malcolm Butler, and we've had to play a lot of young guys. So if Big Ben and those receivers get going, we could be in trouble, which would take Henry out of it if we have to play catch up from behind a lot. So,
in all fairness, all Henry has to do is break 90-yard runs all the time, and you're fine.
Well, that's true. As long as he's got somebody he can stiff arm, he's good.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up today. Thanks again for joining me, Hollywood. Good luck to your tight ends. Get those lineups in. Get Hunter Henry in. And we'll see you next week.
Awesome.